I'm curious if you have, I always like asking, do you have a best piece of writing advice, but also a worst that you've come across and been like, no, that's actually crap?
The worst is, and that's just anything that says this is a rule.
Yeah.
Anything that says this is a rule, I would say there are no rules. That's what I think. And I think there are very good pieces of advice and guidelines that probably, especially when you're a young writer, an emerging writer, learning the craft, that it's good to heed, because, like, you know, show don't tell. You know, you hear these sorts of pieces of advice, and they're good guidelines, but there's always somebody who's a master of the craft who breaks those rules and does it really well and deliberately and to excellent effect. And show don't tell is good advice, but you can't always show. You cannot show every detail. It just be so tedious. You don't want to see. You have to tell sometimes. You have to, you know, sort of shorten that time span. So there is a place for telling. And I understand where the advice is coming from, having said that. You know, it is sort of like to immerse people into the book, and it is good advice in many cases, but I think anything where people say this is what you have to do, this is a rule, that's a warning bell. That's a warning bell, because I have yet to encounter something that is truly a rigid rule. It's like I've seen examples of every single rule that you know, and somebody's broken it really well. In terms of the best writing advice, I think it's just get it down on the page. Just turn off that inner editor when you're first writing. So when you're doing your first draft, the most destructive and the most stultifying thing is that voice that's telling you, oh, it's rubbish, it's rubbish, it's rubbish. And of course it's rubbish. It's a first draft. All first drafts are rubbish in my experience. And so I think it's really important just to say, expect it to be a crappy first draft. Expect it to be rubbish. And also almost think, actually, I have to write this rubbish to get it out of my system, and then I can go off and, you know, hone it and edit it and come back to it with that sort of editing eye. So there's two different, I think, so write with the door closed to the outside world, no judgment, and then rewrite with the door open, in where you're looking at it with a critical eye, and you can maybe ask other people to look at it with a critical eye too. So yeah, that's probably one of the pieces of advice I would say. Yeah,
I think I agree. I haven't mastered that, but I agree. I think, is it Dorothea Brand who wrote that book in like the 30s about writing, I think? I think there's a bit in that which explains that concept really well, like you just did as well. It has a time, like that character in your mind has a time, and then you employ the other one for the other part.
It's like separating that sort of, they are two sides of the brain. It's a bit like what, you know, the sort of the publicity author life, a publicity life is writing life. Those two selves are completely different skill sets. So it's a similar sort of thing. You have to learn to separate those out and be gentle with both of them. You know, like you need them both. They're both good. It's not like one is good and the other is bad. You need them both. So definitely. Yeah, getting that